Well, as we continue to reflect on Father's Day, as I said, I wanted to spend just a little bit of time thinking about the wisdom or the teaching that has been passed down to us by our fathers or the father figures in our lives. I can see that my parents are watching this service, so I will get in and say Happy Father's Day, Dad. And when I think about my own father, I don't think I can cover the breadth of the things that my dad taught me, from the big things to the little things, like changing a tyre or how to spin a cricket ball. But there is a couple of things that do come to mind. The most important thing that my dad taught me was an understanding of what it means to live as a Christian. I can say that I probably learnt more about how to live a Christian life from my parents than I did from any sermon or any book that I've ever read. The commitment to worship, to grow, to serve, my dad showed the example of how to do that, and that's how I learned. My dad also taught me how to listen. Every time anybody talks to my dad, you can see him listening to the other person intently. Whereas my mind wants to race on and think about a bunch of things when people are talking to me, my dad has shown me the importance of genuinely listening to what the other person is saying. There's plenty that I could share, but I've invited other people to talk about their own fathers. As I said before, I do acknowledge that for some people the relationship with their father can be complex, could be distant, or even that relationship has been hurtful. And if that is you, our hearts go out to you today. And we acknowledge that today, a day like Father's Day, can be difficult for you. And I hope this sharing will still be okay of what we're doing today. Today we acknowledge that different people, many people, have played that role of being able to pass down wisdom and teaching and insight to us. And so if your relationship with your own father is complex, maybe you can be thinking about the other people who have passed wisdom or teaching down to you today. So as I said, I put out a request and I started to... I forgot to move this on. Sorry, Mark. That's my dad there. I put out a request and I asked people, what did your father teach you? Or what did the significant person in your life teach you? Now, for those people who are watching online, you might want to type your answers in the comment section. You can participate with these questions as well. But as I said, I asked a bunch of people and I've cut down their answers a bit because there was a lot of sharing. And here is some of their answers. What did your father teach you?
What is something that your dad has taught you?
This is my dad. He taught me lots of things, but one of the things he did teach me was to fix things around the house and to have the confidence to have a go at fixing things.
So I left home, Sri Lanka, when I was 19 years old. And Dad's always taught me to really work hard, especially when times are tough.
My dad taught me how to play soccer and that you don't give up.
Well, my father used to have a broad feeling that everything in our life, we should live all of our life according to the God's word found in the Bible. He used to refer to the Bible as the world's greatest history book.
Some things my father taught me were respect, hard work, and appreciation for exercise.
When I was a little boy, I used to get up early in the morning and climb into bed with my dad. And he used to go through his full repertoire of his favourite Australian poems, Clancy the Overflow, The Man from Snowy River, some of Shakespeare's sonnets, and he knew them all up by heart. And so when it came to doing my living certificate, I studied Hamlet to my dad's great delight, because he loved Hamlet.
Dad's modelled and taught me an acceptance and care for others. I'm certain so much of my humour and silliness has come from him. He's demonstrated the way to care for and lift others up with fun. He's taught me optimism, to find the good amidst the bad, to hold on to joy and appreciate what we've been given. And he's modeled to me an appreciation for the world we live in, even amongst brokenness and sin. And he's modeled a thankfulness to God for all of our blessings. I can thank God for Dad there.
Well, what Dad taught me was to keep going, because he had a lot of difficulties, but he just kept on keeping on. And I think his generation particularly had lived through the Depression, the wars, and he just kept going. And I think that's a message we really need right now.
What did he teach me? As an engineer, I think my dad just really struggled with the fact that I didn't love maths, and he was very patient, and he would help me with my maths homework, and he was patient. He didn't change my mind, but he was very, very patient, and I think that's definitely something that I remember and love about my dad now. Another thing that he's really imprinted in us is invest time in your family. Growing up, that's what he put his time and energy into us, and I love him for it.
My father, he taught me to never be late and always work hard at what you do. He would always be half an hour early to everything that we would go to.
Good morning, Turramurra. Here we go. What is something my father taught me? Well, my father taught me two things. He taught me to play football, Aussie rules, of course, and he taught me how to build things. And as a child, I just loved wandering around after him, emulating the things that my father did.
He taught me about Christian values. He did teach me that by example and by his love, which he showed. He was the one that gave us medicine. When we were sick, Dad was the one who came in through the night and gave us medication or nose drops or whatever we had to have, because he followed the 4 hours exactly.
Hi everyone, hope everyone's doing fine. The things that my dad really taught me had to do with music. I can remember from a very young age page turning for him as he played the organ, and him accompanying me when I played my viola.
And I can really remember my dad teaching me to seize every opportunity that came my way.
Hey everyone, just want to wish you all a really happy Father's Day.
Something that we've learnt from our dad is to throw yourself into everything. He's really creative and we really love that about him, and he's taught us to give everything a red hot go. He's also taught us that it's more about the journey rather than destination, and just to put 100% effort into everything you can and just be proud of yourself.
I want to talk about my father, Ross Campbell, a wise, loving man of faith who prioritised his family. He was a teacher, but by vocation he was a surgeon. He taught his children to be independent. He took us to the family farm and we learnt to shoot, we learnt to fish, we learnt to drive a car, we learnt to change tyres and change the oil. We gardened together. He did a lot of things with his family. He taught us to value family, he taught us to value independence, but most of all, he taught us to care for one another.
Did you enjoy that? I probably should have warned you up front. I had 22 responses to these questions. And so, as I said, I had to do some editing down a little bit. Now, the Bible reading today was from the Old Testament book of Proverbs. Proverbs were written by a bunch of different authors, but mainly they were by King Solomon, who was supposed to be the wisest man that ever lived. A proverb is a short, concise sentence that conveys a moral truth. It's a quick grab of wisdom from a few dozen words. I read this in an article somewhere. Someone said, Proverbs is a bit like the Twitter of the Old Testament. You only get a little grab and there's not too much explanation that goes with them. Most proverbs make very little attempt to note exceptions or to give qualifications, but rather it just puts out the saying and invites the reader to consider it and work through what the saying says. So it got me thinking about our fathers, or the significant people in our lives, and the way that they may pass on this wisdom to us. And in particular, was there any saying that our dads said a lot? A particular saying or a phrase that our dads used to say a lot, or the significant people in our life used to say a lot. I know that my dad used to say something on the lines of, "You got to give a sustained effort." A sustained effort. That was the phrase he kept coming back to. My dad didn't quite explain why we needed to give a sustained effort, or even how to give a sustained effort, just that we had to. So what about you? Did your dad have a saying? Did your significant figures in your life throw out, well, not quite proverbs, but a phrase that sticks into your mind? I invite you to write it in the comment section, as we're once again going to hear some different people sharing about the sayings that their dad had.
Is there a saying that they would say all the time?
One of his favourite sayings was, if a job's worth doing, then it's worth doing well, or it's worth doing properly.
Dad's based in Sri Lanka, so there's not a lot of face-to-face with Dad, especially over the last 2 or 3 years, but he's always giving advice, and his main advice is to do good unto others and be thankful for mercies.
My dad always says to do your best and to try hard.
Exactly, but my father used to comment often on the centuries-old wisdom and old-fashioned truths that when they were reviewed in more modern terms, they held the same meaning as what they held in the days in which the Bible was written. He used to refer to the Bible as the world's greatest history book.
A favourite saying of my father's was, when we were driving along, if we saw somebody running, he'd say, "There goes an athlete."
Our little saying Dad often has is, never put off for tomorrow what you can put off for the day after, which I've taken to heart.
A couple of handy household tips come to mind. Number one would be put things away, which does echo in my mind often, and I often share that with my own children. Another would be turn the lights off. Actually, he didn't really say turn the lights off, but rather when he came home from something in the evening, he would just silently but very purposefully and kind of loudly turn off a lot of lights that were on throughout the house. And as a homeowner, a parent and a bill payer, I appreciate that.
Ern believed in the welfare state, the paying of taxes to redistribute wealth in order to make society fairer and more equal. He could not abide tax avoidance schemes. Although he never harped on this to his children, it was clear to us that he lived his life on the basis, to whom much is given, much will be required. Luke 12:48. He felt compelled to use his talents, wealth, knowledge, time, etc. for the benefit of his community.
Is there a saying that he said all the time? Not really. My father was a very quiet, unassuming sort of guy. Preferred to speak through his actions, actually. But I think what I modelled really was, if you're going to build something, build it well. And the second thing is have some pride in what you do. Not be proud, but have some pride.
Dad developed a great fondness for the old Baptist hymn, The Old Rugged Cross. I'll cling to the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it some day for a crown.
Keep your feet on the ground. Don't be too above yourself. Treat others as you would have them treat you. Above all, love the Lord.
Dad used quotations all the time. His Oxford Dictionary of Quotations was something he kept handy. His quotations were always appropriate to the circumstance, and he would use them, as a teaching point. When repairing something, he would say, measure twice, cut once.
Good morning, everyone. When I was a child, my father often said, if something is worth doing, it's worth doing well. As I grew older, he sometimes quoted from Shakespeare, this above all, unto thine own self be true.
Well, once again, those sayings were great. But the interesting thing about sayings, it's not what the wisdom that the saying is just not the wisdom in the saying, but it's actually what we do with that wisdom. If we jump back to the Old Testament book of Proverbs, it's a bit of a weird book. It really does jump all over the place. There are some long speeches, there's some short one-liners, and it really seems to be like a Twitter feed, full of different things that are just everywhere, and about a whole bunch of different things. One commentator said that the key to reading Proverbs is more than just putting the pieces together like a huge mosaic picture. It's about learning to apply these principles skillfully to the complexities that one encounters in life. I really like that. So whether it's a saying from our father or a proverb in the Bible, we need to do more than just listen to a saying. We need to think about how we can apply that saying to our lives. Two interesting points about the Proverbs in particular. Proverbs are not promises. They're more about probabilities. Like when you read through the book of Proverbs, it's put forwards likely scenarios. If you do this, then the outcome will likely be this. But it gives no guarantees. It doesn't say it will definitely happen, because life is not like that. But it is saying that the chances of this outcome being that outcome is higher. And so if you live God's way, the probabilities that you will have a happy and blessed life is higher. The other thing that you might notice when you're reading Proverbs is it often doesn't dictate a response, but rather it invites us to consider a better way. It often compares two situations and invites us, well, what would you choose? So, for example, Proverbs 16:16, how much better it is to get wisdom than gold, to get insight rather than silver. It's not saying that gold or silver is bad, but it's just inviting us to consider. If you're going to pursue something, if you're going to dedicate your life to gaining something, what's better, wisdom and insight or gold and silver? And leaves it up to us to decide. So what do you get out of the book of Proverbs? If you have some spare time during lockdown, you might want to sit down and read the entire book of Proverbs. There's about 800 proverbs in the book of Proverbs. Although I do need to note that some of them are a little dated, and there is a smattering of sexism that's included in Proverbs, probably due to the era that King Solomon was writing some of these. Still, I would say it's worth reading through the book of Proverbs. If you don't have time for that, here is, I don't know where I've put it. Maybe it's, no, I don't know. I was going to put up 16 different Proverbs on the screen. I don't know where I've done with them. Never mind. I'm going to think about, is there any Proverbs that resonate with you? Is there any proverb that jumps out to you that you remember from your time at Sunday school or different times? If there is, you might want to write that in the comment section as well. But we're going to hear from our people one last time. Is there a verse from the book of Proverbs, or some people actually answered a verse from the Bible, that you like? I'm going to hand back over to our people.
When it comes to the book of Proverbs in the Bible, is there a proverb you particularly like or resonates with you, and why?
And one of my favourite proverbs is a proverb of Solomon, son of David. It's Proverbs Chapter 3, verses 3 and 4, which says, "Let love and faithfulness never leave you. Bind them around your neck and write them on the tablet of your heart. Then you will win favour and a good name in the sight of God and all people."
Yeah, meaning I like Proverbs 11:17, which talks about those who are kind benefit themselves, but the cruel bring ruin on themselves. Why this resonates with me is I've always been taught to honor the Lord your God with everything that we have and be thankful for all the blessings and to share our resources.
When it comes to the book of Proverbs, the following applies to my father. To do what is right and just is more acceptable to the Lord than sacrifice. Proverbs 21:3.
And at the moment, my favourite Proverbs is Proverbs 27:17, which is iron sharpens iron and a person sharpens another. And I think that's really about relationships and how we can make each other better.
This proverb that I chose, it says, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." That's how I know my dad.
And there's a proverb that really makes me think of him. That is Proverbs 12:25. "Anxiety weighs down the heart, but a kind word cheers it up." And Dad's always cared for me in my anxieties. He's never put expectations on me that have caused me to stress, and he has so often had a kind word or a bit of light-hearted fun to lift my heart. And I'm so thankful for my dad.
So, thinking of a proverb, I was thinking it would have to be something to do with patience and kindness, and he's a humble guy. So what about Proverbs 27:2? "Let another praise you and not your own mouth, someone else and not your lips." He's a humble guy. Happy Father's Day, Dad. Love you.
My dad had a favourite part of the Bible, which was John 15, where Jesus talks about the vine and the branches. And the last thing I did when I visited him just prior to his death was to take home with me to Sydney some cuttings of his favourite vine, the strawberry grape, which he was interested in. And so those special verses of the Bible have a particular resonance for me.
I'd settle for Proverb 22, verse 6. "Start children off the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it." So as I said, my father taught me to build, but he taught me also to listen for people who have needs, to be able to sort of develop or help to develop solutions. And whatever you build, make sure that it leaves them better off than where they started.
I think the one that really stands out to me is in Proverbs 26 from verse 12 on. "Do you see a man who is wise in his own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than him. The sluggard says, there's a lion in the road, there is a lion in the streets. As a door turns on its hinges, so does a sluggard in his bed. The sluggard buries his hands in the dish, it wears him out to bring it back to his mouth. The sluggard is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly."
I did think that was a proverb, but I think it's Ecclesiastes, isn't it? Something about what Dad used to write in our Bibles about remember the Creator in the days of your youth.
Is there a proverb that resonates with me? It is, "Start the children off the way they should go. Even when they are old, they will not turn from it." Proverbs 22:6.
And a favourite verse from the Bible was, and remains for me, Proverbs 11:2. When pride comes, then comes disgrace, but with humility comes wisdom. Have a lovely day.
I think for me, a proverb that I can really relate to at the moment is Proverbs 27:17, which says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. And I can really associate this with our dad, because he always inspires us to think big and to help others and to be the best versions of ourselves.
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day.
I really do wish to thank all those people who have been sharing today. It's been great to see so many different faces. Makes me miss being back in person here at church, but also to hear their wisdom and their insights as well. So thank you for all those who've taken part. But to wrap this up, one of the lines that really resonated with me in an article I was reading about Proverbs is this. It says, underlying the book of Proverbs is the assumption that wisdom is good and can ease our way through life. Once again, no guarantee, but that's what Proverbs is saying. The gaining of wisdom is a good thing. And when we think about how we can apply it to our own lives, it can actually help us as we move through our lives. But once again, the key to all wisdom is not just hearing, but discerning how we live that out. To finish with, I just wanted to show you this. This is the first Bible I ever owned. It was given to me by my parents on my 10th birthday. They wrote it in the front of the little book here, presented to Philip. They called me Philip, not Phil. But anyway, it says, with love and God bless you from Mum and Dad for your 10th birthday. But then my father, because it's definitely my father's writing, wrote down underneath that a Bible quotation, which was actually from Proverbs Chapter 3, verses 4 to 6. And it says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. You've already heard this today. And lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him, and he will make your path straight. And I just pray that in the different sharing that we've heard today, that we might be open to the wisdom from our fathers or from the significant people who have invested in our lives. And may we be open to the wisdom of God as well. And may we all seek to live out that wisdom in all that we do. Amen.